What's going on, guys? Welcome to Alignment First. Mycal Anders here. We are on a mission to serve the executive athlete through integrity, courage, and ownership. And I've got the honor and the pleasure to have a full circle moment with you all and sit down with Gina Catalano, the founder of Venture Solutions and the author, let me make sure I get this right, of Tandem Leadership. How your number two can make you number one. I want to start with a story. And first of all, let me express just tremendous gratitude that we've stayed connected this long. And now we're here because it's the serendipity of my life. You are part of that story in that you gave me my first real recommendation for literature and entrepreneurship. You told me to read Built to Sell. And why you are such a fixture in my life is because the same weekend I met my wife in Green Bay, Wisconsin, you were in the seat next to me on the flight up to Wisconsin. And I was still in the Marine Corps. I shared with you this dream for a gym and all of these things. And you know, with zero obligation, expectation, shared with me so much wisdom on that flight that really teed me up and gave me a lot of foresight and courage to go do the thing. So with all of that, thank you so much, because now we're here.
It's amazing, isn't it? I mean, truly, it's a full circle moment. I still, even though it's been almost 15 years, I still remember sitting next to you in the fastest flight ever because of how much we were talking about everything. You know, you had your like business plan ready. You were like, you'd drawn out the specs of the gym, you know, and knew what you wanted to do and shared so much of your life story up until that point. I mean, it was, I love those kind of experiences on a plane because, you know, otherwise you're just like fighting for your space most of the time. Right?
Yeah.
So it's something that and it's been so fun to watch everything that's happened in your life and for us to, you know, stay connected and to see so much go on and see so much stuff change, you know, with getting married and having your children and then just really putting yourself out there. So it's an honor to be here with you as well.
Yeah, for sure. So you made mention because you as a now fractional COO, having worked with some clients who have outsourced people like you for what you do, there seems to be a high level of EQ involved in what you do. And you had made mention when we reconnected before we went live today that you knew whatever that means about me and going on the path that I've been on. What is it about being a COO in the fractional capacity that you see in your clients?
That's a great question. I think part of it's just, I'm not in any particular industry. I came out of manufacturing, which I always say is not for the faint of heart because you have to put a lot of pieces together to get something to move out the door, usually lots of different kinds of people. And so I think my brain works like a systems thinker, like in terms of doing that. And I think what I know now, which I didn't know then, and I didn't even know that I was a fractional COO. I mean, people weren't doing fractional COO work in those days when we met, but I think what I know is that there's a certain way that people look at the world. It's like they can be very optimistic on one hand, but they're a little skeptical on the other hand. They do have a vision, often have passion, and I wish I could say I could put the magic whole thing together because I can't, because it's sometimes like it's a feeling. As I've progressed over the last 15 years in this fractional role, I pretty much only work now with people I like. And I've realized that that makes a big difference for me in terms of like, they have their values centered. I think that's one thing that I should have thought of first. Most of the folks that I work with that I think do well, they have like some sort of core value. They don't have to be all the same, but that really grounds them and puts them in a position to be successful. I mean, it's not like they don't fail, but they're going to push through this because they're trying to get to, they may not know how they're going to get there, but they definitely know where they want to get to at some point.
Is that where you really come in for the visionary who knows the destination and probably, speaking for me, doesn't have a clue about the process or the journey or the steps to take or whatever? Your function in a very esoteric way is to manage the how.
For the most part, yeah. And I think that I'm really fortunate. I think the folks that I resonate the most with are actually people that can do the how decently up to a point. It's that growth phase that really kills them. Like if there's somebody that really wants to be like I think in Built to Sell, or we call it like there's like, you have your kind of trade person, that their solo person. And then you have your freedom fighter. They just don't want to work for somebody else. And then you have your mountain climber. Like they're going to keep, like they get to one mountain, man, they see the next one and they're ready to go. And most of my folks actually are pretty good at operational stuff. They just can't do both at the same time.
Right.
Once they really dive into they're allowed to really be visionaries. They're like, I'm so overdoing operational stuff, So I think that's one of the, and the other thing too, I think for me is that I can keep up with them. A lot of times when they start, they've got folks around them that can't keep up with them. And I don't know if that's been your experience with working with folks. Like, it's not that people are bad. It's just like all of a sudden they feel like I'm the only one that knows where we're going, right?
Is that a communication issue?
I think it can be, because a lot of things are intuitive. I also think it's sometimes we need people in our business that are really focused and good at certain tasks. And so we hire those folks. And if you have a really, like I think about EOS. I'm not an EOS implementer, but a lot of my clients have used it. You need to have your framework really out there. Things need to be specific and people need to understand. And you have to have the right people in the right seat, right? Like you hire, like, especially a lot of my folks. So like they hire someone, they're either someone they know, might be a relative. And they're trying to figure that out. And then it turns out that, like all of a sudden the company outgrows that person. Or that person needs to be moved to a different seat. So I think for me, what I hear back from my clients is they're like, you can keep up with me. You have experience in other industries and or other companies that I wouldn't have thought of. And it's just like, I can go faster now. Like I can go faster.
Yeah. It's so funny. I have a client that I'm thinking of very specifically. You made mention that people come to you for one thing, and then you start diving deeper and you start to peel back these layers. And it's like, oh, well, the problem that you hired me to solve immediately really isn't the cause of the issue that you're experiencing. And that's really been, this is like for the record, this is the first time you and I are having a conversation since that plane ride.
Yeah.
And that has truly been the evolution of my career and the justification for the shifts that we've made in Next Level, in that I came to this realization that, you want six-pack abs, you want to put distance between you and the hospital, get off your blood pressure medication, lose the 40 pounds. But your fitness or lack thereof is really a symptom of the things that you're not dealing with or avoiding in the other 23 hours of your day.
Yeah.
And when I started exploring those issues with my clients, because like the getting in better shape is a very through a trainer or a coach is a very intimate process. And I feel like your energy in your fractional capacity, there's a lot of parallels in this experience, in that you get an invitation to do this deep dive after a certain level of rapport.
For sure.
And we start solving those issues, and all of a sudden, like all the friction that you experience in terms of living a better lifestyle that supports and empowers your bandwidth and capacity in business falls into place. Right?
Yeah.
How has that been? When I draw that parallel, does that match up with your experience?
100%. So think about it this way. Most people I work with that are entrepreneurs, very few of them may have inherited, like, like stumbled into it. I mean, not everybody has like the plan, but in general, most people, because they don't want to work for another person, they have a great idea or ideas, and they want to see what it is like to be on their own. So they want freedom, right?
Yeah.
Well, if you're tied to a business and a lifestyle that's not healthy, you might be better working for someone where you can clock out at 5 o'clock and make sure you hit the gym, or, spend time with your family. Like, what are you doing? I'm always saying, like, what's your end game here? Because if you're not built, like, why torture yourself? Right? Like, why torture yourself if you're not going to get we're doing this for the life we want to live.
Right.
And, and so for like, when you're very similar, it's like, you have to have that kind of why ingrained, and it has to get back in there. And similar, like I have a lot of times I'll have clients that will be ready a lot of times too late to say, they're like, I'm 65. I want to sell my business next year. And I'm like, are you ready? It's kind of that built to sell thing.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, A, your business isn't ready. And B, you're working 100 hours a week, maybe not so much anymore, but you're working so much. What are you going to do after? And they're like, oh, I'm going to take up yoga or golf, or I'm going to hike the Himalayas or whatever. And if you don't start doing that stuff now, you aren't going to do it as soon as like you're just going to be a hole in your life. Right. And I don't know if you run into that as well.
Oh yeah. I mean, you got to fill the vacuum.
Yeah.
I love this, and I'm so happy that we're reconnecting, because I did not know until like literally this conversation how much what we do operates synergistically. I love to tell this story. This client that came to me with that 40-pound goal, and 6 months later, we're down 40 pounds. And every session that he missed was in servitude to this company that he built out of a closet over the course of 2 decades. And, like I said, that intimate process where, you're exploring all the obstacles and all the friction, like, because I'm sure, like you, when you're dealing with a visionary, and by the time they get to Gina, they're making money.
Yeah.
Like I don't think you solve the problem of like dumpster fire businesess.
Not anymore.
Yeah, you're more in the game of optimization and improving
sure.
processes and whatnot. So, with all that, if you've done that, there's also this narrative that you should be able to figure shit out. Right. And for some reason, unbeknownst to you, the forest for the trees, you can't. And that's a very disempowering place to be. Insert the Mycals and the Ginas of the world. Right. Yeah. And I got to ask him, I said, is there a reality where you've taken this thing as far as you have the skill or the will to take it? And that was a very off-putting and vulnerable question to answer. What is that?
That's a great question, by the way. I'm stealing that one.
Okay. So what is that? What does that conversation look like in your world?
I think, I think it's what are you going to do next?
Mm-hmm.
Like, have you thought about it? Are you like one of my people that I really admire, that I serve on a board with? One of the things she said one time at a conference, she was a speaker. She said, I run my business like I'm going to run it forever, but I could sell it tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason is that we don't know what's going to happen, right? We don't know what's going to happen. And if you're so intimately involved in your business and the business can't run without you,
Mm-hmm.
You have a family emergency,
Right.
Like God forbid something horrible happens and you have family emergency and you feel this either to your company, your clients, your customers, your employees, whatever. And then you want, you have a sick parent, sick child, whatever, your own illness, that no longer is like your passion. That's an anchor. That's an anchor around your neck, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so I think when I think about it in that way, I think people have to have that question put in front of them more often than not, right?
Yeah, sure. Mm-hmm.
And hear the stories about, how much better it is on the other side. There's a lot of things to unpack because people identify so much with being the business or being whatever role that they have in an organization. So, and we're kind of a mirror a lot of times, I think.
100%.
Right? This is what you think you look like. This is what you really look like.
Yeah. It's so interesting because the phrase that jumps out to me right here right now is too late, right? Where I spend a lot of my time with my clients is creating lifestyle by design. And what I mean by that is, we had those huge storms. I don't know what it was like for you down in Southern Arizona, but, it was like hurricane force winds for a second. We had that microburst and all that.
Right.
But at the same time, because it's Arizona and it rains so little here, like it's 1:00 in the afternoon, the kids are on fall break and I'm on the front porch with my wife watching them just go for it in the rain. And I'm thinking to myself, if I still had the gym, I would miss this moment.
Yeah.
And I've made such a strategic and intentional, aligned professional shift so that everything that I do since the gym insulates moments like these.
Yeah.
And is that a conversation that are you ever too far along in the leadership towards that grand vision to unwind and create that insulation?
I don't think so. I mean, I think there could be market conditions for your business. And I think we've seen that a lot over the last 5 years, right? Because the pandemic created some challenges for some people based on just because either their business model went away or there's a new model. One of my good friends, I should connect you, but one of my good friends that he says he calls it the seatbelt moment, where every day you go to work, you're so into it. Like you don't even remember taking your seatbelt off. You're like, like as a business owner, entrepreneur, and like you run into the building. And then one day, like the seatbelt won't come off fast. Like it comes up and like it almost like it's like your fingers can't deal with it. Right. And like you don't want to go in. And what the flip side of what you're saying is what I've seen people do, especially entrepreneurs, as stubborn as I think sometimes they can be, I also feel like they can change on a dime. Like once they make that decision, it's that decision that does it. It's like all of a sudden I'm clearing the decks. I'm going to, and sometimes it has to be a big moment and sometimes it's a small moment. Like for you, watching watching the kids play out in the rain, which is up in Phoenix, like an amazing thing. If for people who don't live in Arizona, we get more rain than you do, but
Yeah.
you know, being there with Nicole, watching the kids, being able to experience that moment,
Mhm.
that for some people could be the pivotal moment, right?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
they're like, I don't ever want to miss this again.
Right. Yeah. I mean, those are the moments where I don't know how much of a security blanket you are for your clients sometimes, you know, where they question like, oh man, is this the right decision? Like, because rarely do we make these pivots and see an immediate validation for
For
these
sure.
decisions. You know, it might be 2, 3, 6 months, maybe even a year before it's like, oh, that storm was worth weathering, you know, before you get the proof. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's definitely a faith thing, right? Like,
Yeah. Mhm. So, you know, though that moment with, you know, the kids in the rain and, you know, sitting next to my wife and uh is like is now burned into my brain. And it's like, okay, there are concessions as a leader in business and a visionary and stuff like that, where like the reality of being present for every moment like that, right? That's not realistic. However, making sure that I'm around for as many of them as possible, like intentionally, not like, oh, I just so happen to have a clear calendar today and I got to be here, and relying on like serendipity to make that happen.
yeah.
You know, do you, aside from the X's and O's of profitability and getting yourself in position for M&A, like, are you having those kinds of conversations with your clients?
Yeah, for sure. You know, because a lot of times people will come, they're like, they're stuck, right? They're like,
Mm-hmm.
and they're stuck for a number of reasons. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you know, it a lot of times it'll just appear like the business is stuck, or it's either two things: either the business is stuck or it's growing too fast and I can't keep up with it, right? Like, it's
Sure.
either, they cause both the same thing,
Uh-huh.
in that you're usually working hard in both situations.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, every time you have to, you know, every time you have to next level, right?
Yeah.
It's like
Uh-huh.
it requires a whole different set of skills. And so I think we have to have those conversations, because I think most of the entrepreneurs or the folks I work with,
Mm-hmm.
they do value family, personal, you
Mm-hmm.
know, whatever they choose to volunteer with. That, like, they do see it as being like a holistic thing.
Yep.
And when it gets out of balance,
Mm-hmm.
they don't have like just somebody to have a conversation with.
Right.
That you know, strategy. I don't know if you're familiar with Strengths Finders, but
Oh yeah.
strategy is my number one.
Okay.
And so, like that is where like I love to play. And so, and I have a high need to get stuff done. So
Mm-hmm.
those two things together is usually pretty refreshing for people, right? Like,
Right.
let's just pick this apart and let's get all the elements and then let's put it
Mm-hmm.
all back together again, you know?
Right.
And you know, and plus, you know, I'm old now. And so I have, they call that wisdom. I'm going to call
Yeah.
it. I mean, I just had enough experience that some people haven't had. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you were in the Marines. You had some really significant life experiences that framed you up as a
Mm-hmm.
human. The number of people that go from like college or not college and a job and then start a business,
Mm-hmm.
there's a gap. There's like this gap of people who just haven't worked in organizations. So when you hire people and they're like, I don't know what to do with these people, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it creates a lot of
Ah,
conflict for them, right?
yes. Right.
Like
Right.
structure, and they don't
Mm-hmm.
like they don't understand the value of it. I don't think it. They don't understand the value of it, and they
Yeah.
need someone to help them through it. And that's, I
Yeah.
think, also been a new thing for me, is
Mm-hmm.
like people who've never like actually worked inside like a
Yeah.
similar organization that they're running.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting, because I feel like that's a different and still really important conversation to have, where we come in is, you know, I've done a handful of presentations and I'm getting deeper integrated into the Thunderbird School of Global Management. And if you had asked me on that plane if I'd be doing anything that I'm doing right now, I'd have been like, I can't see that far in the future. But it's we're talking about, leaders in industry, who have been in that corporate structure, that system for a really long time. And then to get them to explore what's possible, that whole kids in the rain thing, because they're ready to start their own business. I feel like you gave me that strategic insight coming into business, where I feel like the guidance that we give our clients that are getting ready to make the leap is like, you get to create it the way that you need it to be, right? The principles are still the same. You got to understand your P&L, you got to drive profitability. You have to do those things to create a successful business. But just like the process for helping a client lose weight or get in the best shape of their life, in principle, they're doing the same thing. But what that looks like in application is different from individual to individual, let alone industry to industry. How does that line up with the way that you come in for your people?
I think that's a really good observation, especially when there's so many different kinds of entrepreneurs, like the folks you're talking about, and a lot of them are, if they've been in industry for a while and they've decided to go out on their own, a lot of times they may be getting somebody else's money to go with them,
Sure. Yeah.
they found a business or somebody found them and like, hey, you get a big ownership chunk of this or whatever. And everybody thinks they can do it. Like when you're not actually doing it, everybody thinks they can do it.
Right.
It's kind of like watching sports, like all the people in the stands remember their glory days from when they were doing the sports. And so like they're super critical and everything.
Yeah.
But when you're actually doing it, like it's humbling, I think.
Oh, yeah.
So for me, I think like I have some friends right now that have been trying to purchase a business for the last year and a half. And they've had every deal fall through because most of the time the owners have pulled it back off the market.
Man. Yeah.
And so you're getting, and so he emailed me, he goes, well, I guess I'm getting really good at, doing businesses. And I said, I said, like, first of all, in general, most of us, there's that concept, and I can't think of the name of it is, where it's like sunk cost fallacy, right? Like where you think everything you own is so much better than
so much more valuable
than it is. And I said, so maybe you actually are identifying some good companies. So just keep doing it because, you're getting really good at it and you're getting really fast at it.
Right.
So I think that's for those kind of people. I think it's really important. I do think it's always humbling for those folks, though, because most people I know started their own businesses from scratch, like you. And like, it's kind of like having a child. You get this baby, you can carry the baby in one arm. Well, you could probably carry 6 babies, but you carry a baby in one arm, right? And then, a year later, it weighs 3 times as much and your arms aren't tired because you've grown with the baby, at the same time.
Right.
I think it's a lot scarier when you have to jump in and like all of a sudden hit the ground running. And I think it's a lot more humbling.
Yeah.
Because if you make a mistake, it may be a bigger mistake.
Yeah. It's when you get that peek behind the curtain, it changes everything.
For sure.
I'm really good with my clients. You know what I mean?
I do. I'm not surprised at all.
Nobody told me I needed to do admin. Nobody told me I had to manage payroll. Nobody told me that cost of goods sold was a thing. You know what I mean? The learning curve of business when you've been a technician forever and you've had the insulation of a system operating in the periphery or in the background to support your ability to just be the technician. For some people, I feel like that climb is too steep, and because all you want to do is not work for anybody anymore. So you pull the trigger, and then all of a sudden it's just like, oh shit, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I did not know that this is what I was actually signing up for.
Yeah, although funny that you say that way, because I've thought of that too. But I also have found people that are like have MBAs, and I still remember this client of mine a couple of years ago, and I always think like a manufacturing, like, so I even think like cost of service. So like if you're a provider, like you and I do consulting, advising, whatever, you still have to make a profit. Like there's still
Right.
things that you do, like, so cost of service. I have a consulting client, and we're running through, and we reorganize their P&L so that it more matches. And then I showed him something. This guy has an MBA, and he's like, I have been doing this for 10 years and I never knew it this way. And it's not that I'm smart. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that's the value of having a Mycal or a Gina, right? Because they're like, we're going to point stuff out that you just don't see.
Right. That having that, I think it takes a couple of things. It takes a higher degree of awareness, not so much that you know what the issue is, but you know there's an issue, first and foremost. Then it takes a willingness to be vulnerable and just simply admit to a third party, somebody on the outside looking in, that you don't have your shit together, right? Yeah. Your self-perception of letting your guard down and admitting that you don't have it all together.
Right.
Because from the outside looking in to the field, you got it going on. Your business is cranking. You're in the room. You're doing the thing. You're making deals, and still, like, it's so humbling to just admit to yourself that you want things to change.
Yeah.
Like, it was rough for me to admit to myself, to admit to myself, when I met you, it was all systems go towards this brick and mortar gym. It was a huge blow to my ego and my identity after almost 13 years to let that thing go.
Yeah.
So that I could do what I'm doing now, and it's, there's no proof, right, that it's going to work. There's no, feedback immediately, like there was and at the same time, there's a lot of things that I thought were going to happen, like very subsequently, that didn't, you know what I mean? Like I walked away from a COO opportunity for an up and coming franchise opportunity out of Texas. But when push came to shove and that opportunity was going to compromise the Kids in the Rain thing, I walked away. Yeah. But in walking away from that, I created another, even though that decision was aligned for Mycal, it created a lot of unintended consequences in terms of what we're doing now. What am I going to do with this gym? I had a solution that is no longer valid. So what do I do now? And then we weren't able to position ourselves from a real estate perspective to just move from one facility to the next. The only given was that we couldn't stay where we were. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And these are the things that are like, despite your best efforts and your best laid plans, to your point, like that's where the Marine Corps really prepared me.
Yeah.
Because it's like, what do they say? No plan survives first contact.
Yeah.
And now we're in the fight. But at the same time, this is what I've reconnected with some old clients that are coming back into our universe under this new way of providing service. And it's like, yeah, a piece of me died in letting that go. I was really sad. And at the same time, as we're building this new thing, I've never been happier.
Yeah. Yeah, it's shedding our old skin, right? Like, I think
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the things. I mean, I think 10 years ago, I remember a coach that I had really, and I just didn't get it. I mean, I've done it enough times because I've reinvented myself enough times, but I
Yeah.
didn't. It's only been in this last 10 years, just with the volatility of everything
Mm-hmm.
that's happened. I think that I've seen it happen enough and enough about you got to let it go. Like, it's that whole thing. Like, it's every parable ever. Like, every Indiana Jones movie, the Star Wars, whatever. Every movie, it's
The
like,
hero's journey.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
the hero's journey, right? Like, you at one hand you're trying to grab this like gold cup here, and the other time someone's trying to pull you up, and you got
Mm-hmm.
to let go of this, what you know you can grab onto for the
Mm-hmm.
unknown that's ahead. I really feel you with Jim. I don't know if you knew that I had a business partner that we opened a co-working space in Tucson. There was not very many co-working spaces in the 18, 19, and we decided to open a co-working space. And she and her husband bought this old Adobe building that used to be a tortilla factory in Tucson. Only in Tucson can you write that. And it's in the beloved Barrio Viejo neighborhood. And it's like people have known about it forever. I mean, even now people will come by and want tortillas. It hasn't been serving tortillas out of there. Like, people had stories come by like, oh yeah, my Nana used to work here, or
Oh my
I
gosh.
used to go to school at Carrillo, and we used to give them hair after school, and they used to give us a tortilla after school. I mean, amazing, right?
Yeah.
The renovation took long, and our actual opening was March of 2020.
Oh,
Yeah. So we talk about like getting kind of hit upside the head. I have an amazing business partner, so it's like she's awesome and superhuman.
yeah.
And what do you do when no one, I mean, we had people signed up that pulled their contracts because they're
Yeah.
like, we can't, A, I don't know where my business is going, and B, I can't leave the house or whatever, right?
Right.
My
Right.
kids are home now and I have to be home or whatever. I mean, that it's like you open a business and like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but I can say beginning of this year, we sold it to the
Right.
gal that was our community manager, and she's um, she was running it. We weren't, neither one of us were running it, but
Yeah.
so like it's that 5 years later,
Mm-hmm.
this is what happened. We were going to turn it sooner originally. We were going to
Yeah.
grow it. We were going to have a whole chain of co-working spaces all over Tucson. That just didn't work out,
Yeah.
right? But
Mm-hmm.
I'll never regret doing that,
Right. Yeah.
right? Because of the community that we built,
Mm-hmm.
the amazing space, how it turned out, and all the connections that we made. Like,
Yeah.
and it needed to be there. Like, that was
Mm-hmm.
our thing. But yeah, March 2020, man,
Man.
it was
You,
crazy.
you can't, the pandemic is not in anybody's business plan.
No, not on the bingo card for sure, right?
Hey, what's our contingency for a black swan event? Like,
Exactly. It's like that force majeure where they put on all of your insurance riders,
yeah.
acts of God. And then you're getting stuff from the insurance company saying, "Oh no, this is not covered. Nothing, none of this
Oh,
is
dude,
covered." Right?
they took the gym away for a little bit in Arizona. Like I'm happy I was here
100%.
because we fared better than most.
Yeah.
I have a lot of friends here, there, and everywhere that did not make it as a result of the circumstances of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And at the same time, like, I'm not doing business. Like, I'm one of the least tech savvy people I know, and to take everything digital, and that was a very slow process for Mycal, and still rent was due.
Yeah. I mean, you
Like,
do it. That's what entrepreneurs do, man.
and so I'm curious for like the support role that you play. I had no idea that your practice as a COO, like, I'm loving this, is so intuitive and emotionally involved, beyond what the P&L says. as to whether or not this is effective or it's working or not. All of that being said, what has been the utility of coaches, mentors for Gina?
I have been really fortunate in that, when I started my coaching training, I don't know, 10, 11 years. I mean, I had a background because because I worked in higher education and we had a lot of training. Before I went into business, we had a lot of training. And then when I went into consulting, we had a lot of training. So, you get a lot of training. So you learn like just basic tools that I thought everybody knew and they don't. And then for me, coaches have made the difference because if I'm supporting people all the time, like my husband's awesome. And there's only like so much that he wants to listen to some of the things, right? I mean, he's like my number one fan. Like when my book came out, Mycal, he had my business cards. He had his books in his truck. And anytime he went somewhere and he thought he met somebody, he's like, hey, my wife's got a book. And he'd go give him a book. So he was awesome. But I think, there's somebody that's like, when you're having, for me, like, okay, how am I taking care of my health? How am I doing the things? And what are the, like, I just need a safe space sometimes. So like, just to say, I think, and the questions, like the coach I have now is like, she'll say, so what aren't you doing that you're supposed to be doing? And what are you doing that you should be getting rid of? Because I have a high capacity. I think COOs or people like me have a high capacity for work. And she's always like, hey, you seem a little stressed more than normal. And, knowing that so like, are you walking? Are you going to the gym? Are you doing those things?
Yeah.
And are you taking time for yourself? Right. And she'll always tell, the thing I love about her too, she says, do you have a client that you need to get rid of? Like,
wow.
Like, are you doing more than you should be? Her favorite line is, you need to be charging more. That's like one of my favorite things that she always says.
So I love that you said that, because for anybody listening, you go to any conference, you work with any seasoned professional who is, a generation ahead of you in the game as far as business is concerned. And they'll tell you, like, the easiest way to make more money is to charge more, right? However, I was just at a workshop. I am like just recently in the last 6-8 weeks coming up for air in terms of developing the systems that go along with how we serve our clients now. And I'm in this workshop, doing work on Mycal to step into, to really ground this new identity away from the gym. And that came up in one of the presentations. Like, you want to make more money? I'm in a room full of entrepreneurs, coaches, consultants of, varying degrees and industries. If you want to make more money, just increase your rates. And then she said the thing that I'd never heard that went along with that statement. If you want to make more money, just increase your rates. But there's an evolution of identity that needs to be congruent with that increase. And I'm like the king of self-work in my universe. I don't think I know anybody that's been to more seminars, done more mushrooms to like figure my shit out than me. And I'd never heard that before. And it was like such a breath of fresh air that somebody that was giving such a deliberate message that for a lot of us that do what we do, money's not the motivator. It's been my experience that fact check me on like the statistic I'm about to just throw out there, but there's only like 2% of us that are legitimately intrinsically and extrinsically motivated by money. Itself. Right. And I was like, I'm so curious, having heard that, what resonates with you in terms of like the evolution that needs to take place with that shift?
It's really funny that you brought that up, because we're coming up on the 10-year anniversary of me writing the book.
Mm-hmm.
It launched in 2016, and this is right about 10 years ago is when I decided to pretty much stop working for one person.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was a contractor, and really like, I have to do this differently. Like I have to have a different life. My husband and I were living apart because he had retired and he was down here, and I was going back and forth to Minneapolis, la da 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 da.
Yep.
And what I realize is that it's weird, the last 2 years, 2 years probably, I've been reflecting, and it's like all the things that I had wanted 10 years ago happened. Like having a waiting list, for people, like only working with people that I wanted to work with. And I've been reflecting a lot on like how I'm showing up. And like, they can tell you, like the coaches can tell you they're blue in the face, but until you actually internalize it.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm a little slow on some things. And so it's like, it's been the, repeated either working with folks I didn't really resonate with, or doing some things, or being overcommitted. I'm like, no, and that's been this change over the last 5 years. So to your point, I guess it really resonates with me a lot, because you really have to step into it. Like you have to do the thinking about it and finding little things that represent that future life. I do that all the time. I'm always like, what's that? And like, we live right now. My husband's retired. He's been retired for a long time. And I'm not going to be retired for a while, because I love it. I love working, but I live in a sort of a resort community, right? So like, I feel like this is something I dreamed up, like where I get to work somewhere where I love to be and can do the things that I love to do. And I'm like, and I just like, I'm there. Like, so now I'm like, okay, so what's the next thing? Like, it did this weird thing. And that's like, oh, it is true. Right.
What do you think prevents people from stepping into that highest and best version of themselves?
I think it's comfort. I think comfort, I think we as humans value comfort, even the risk takers. Like even there's always that thing about in the EO entrepreneurs organization, like, especially like from the 90s, and a lot of friends of mine are like, oh yeah, we're, 7 dudes, we're going to go skydiving, or whatever. It's like, there's comfort in doing those extreme things all the time. Right. I think vulnerability is underrated. I think humility and vulnerability, I feel like my best clients have a lot of that. Don't get me wrong. A lot of them are like full of themselves too at the same time. But I think there's like this weird combo of it, like to be confident in what you're doing, but also realizing, hey, we're human. And we need to show up for other people, in our lives. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. Having the humility to put your ego in its place and allow it to serve you when it should, and to make it take a back seat when it doesn't. Case in point, my professor, who was my initial interview at Thunderbird, me and him got real tight, and he became a client afterwards.
Wow.
And the way that we teach leadership, with this construct that I was able to visualize through NLP, your physical practice regulates your emotions, which creates mental clarity and allows you to show up as your highest and best spiritual self. that really landed for me, and it became like the method, if you will, for which we frame the conversation of leadership, right? Leadership being your highest expression. And he's like, dude, the way you look at leadership needs to be taught. And he wanted, so he planted that seed that I could do this thing in an academic institution that is Thunderbird. Well, like I know that the way we deliver things is based on what the client needs, and I have initial interview, to teach this next level leadership thing. And he's like, well, what frameworks do you use? And I'm like, well, I mean, sometimes Dilt's model applies. Sometimes it's, we have to identify the sunk cost fallacy and but like, it really depends on what they need, and like, that didn't work in the box of academia. So I got, had to leave that one on the table. We came back around to like this executive education concept, which is way more freestyle and way more like, here's the concept, here's the principle. And then based on what the room needs, this is how we're going to apply these things, right? Or we're going to teach these concepts. And, I wasn't supposed to hear this, but they bring me in to teach this 2 90-minute sessions to a group of international business leaders. And in my first session, they were so worried about like this freestyle approach that I have. 3 administrators audited my first session.
Wow.
And that same professor sat in on the tail end. And while there's this, at the conclusion, got a standing ovation, a line for him to shake my hand and give me like their big takeaways and all that good stuff. When you do a good job, you get the proof.
Yeah,
Yeah. And I wasn't supposed to hear this, but I just so happened to be within earshot. My professor goes up to the program director and he's like, see, I fucking told you he's good.
I think it's hard. I am with you on that. I have a lot of some of my coaches from before that are really good at doing programs, like our coaches are, and they're high ticket, high, they make a lot of money. And they're always like, well, you should get teach a bunch of group of COOs, and you could have a COO fractional business, and you could teach your methodology to everybody. And I'm like, that sounds like work. Like that sounds like something that I don't love. That sounds like something I don't love. I mean,
right.
I personally am not a natural, like, I'm going to develop a curriculum and I'm going to have a thing, and but I do like what I'm doing. Is it scalable? Like I can help other people scale their stuff. Yeah. And but I'm like, I made a choice to have, this was my choice to not like start like a fractional COO business where I have 10 people working for me. Like that sounds like too much work. Right. I can charge more money, live in my dream state, just sit there and help people strategize and get their stuff done. Right.
Yeah, right. And that's that lifestyle by design. That's an aligned decision. That's not a bad decision. That's not wrong. That's not a limitation on your capacity by any means.
No, I don't take it that way. It feels totally in alignment for me.
But I love when people come in and they, with these other big ideas of what it should look like, or what, with the energy of you could be doing more. And I default to the E-Myth, where the businessman comes out to the fisherman and he's like, dude, you could scale this. Imagine a fleet of boats, and then you're printing so much money that you can sit on the beach with the people that you love and cook the fish and have a good old time over cervezas. And the fisherman looks at him, he's like, why would I do all that work just to end up where I already am?
Yeah.
And that is such a profound notion of what it is, because I think that like a lot of people come into business, whether it's through an MBA or the school of hard knocks or not having anything.
Right.
You know, that is a lot of the entrepreneur story is like, man, I didn't have shit. And the only way for me to get it was to do it myself, you know, and they misplace the value of abundance under the guise of more.
Yeah. More for the sake of more. Like Green Valley is the retirement community just north of us. They are building 2 of the largest storage facilities I've ever seen in my life in the middle of nowhere, you know, like a U-Haul type storage facility. And I'm thinking, we have so much. This is like this whole more thing. We don't like more is like quality more. Like I'm in quality more, like not like time.
Yes.
You know, time, people I spend time with, spending time with myself, the ability to have experiences. Like I've gotten to travel a lot more in the last couple of years of places I've wanted to go. I'm like, to me, that's my more now.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
And I'm okay with wearing an old shirt. I've got some old shirts, but I mean, I'm like, I'm okay with that just because I'm like, that's not my more anymore. Right.
Yeah. It's being able to identify that for yourself. You know, I love having my clients take life for a test drive. You know, we one of my clients flips Defenders. That's his business.
Wow.
You know, brings them over from South Africa and then debuts them on the showroom at Barrett Jackson and stuff like that. And he invited us and we went, you know, and, you know, I sat in the Lambo. I sat in his stuff, you know, and I was like, I don't fit in this shit, you know? So I don't need to add it to my list because to achieve it, like, damn, this is a really uncomfortable ride.
Yeah.
It's a status symbol for sure, but like, I'm not going to enjoy it, you know? And I think that is a very underrated practice and not a lot of people do it.
And that comes back to earlier in our convo about like, I think when you're working with entrepreneurs and leaders, like remember why you're doing what you're doing, because like the business can become a life of its own. Right.
Yep.
And when that gets disconnected to why you're doing it, what ends up, I'm like, you guys wanted freedom. You wanted to not have somebody tell you what to do. You didn't want to be tied down to a job. Now you've just created a job for yourself. So so your point about what you do is like, how do we create a life for you that, just so happens you've got like a golden egg that, you know, prints money. Let's make sure that keeps going, but you don't ignore this other part.
Right. Right. And that's why it's really important. I make a very intentional distinction between balance and harmony. Because
that's so funny.
Thank you. Yes. So let's not pretend that balance is a thing. Okay.
I say that oh my gosh, you're the only other person I know that says that. I'm like, balance is hard.
Stop it. Yeah, absolutely.
Balance is super hard.
So, you know, yes, you are going to be out of balance for a period as you're creating escape velocity, as Chris Williamson describes it. That's okay. That harmony justifies the imbalance. I'm going to put the majority of my eggs in this basket over here at the temporary expense of this other thing. Right? My son has his rugby tournament this afternoon. I'll be there for a little bit and then I got to go do this thing that serves the vehicle that allows for those experiences to occur. Okay. But I can't tell you how many people we've served where we talk them off the ledge of being in 2 places at once and nowhere all the time.
Yeah. You gotta be present. I mean, I always use the teeter-totter example for balance. Like
Mm,
you're in balance, like you're the fulcrum on there, and that's exhausting to try to
yes.
keep the teeter-totter going. It's like you're so exhausting. It's like it is harmony. It's like saying it's making choices.
Hmm.
So to your point, like make decisions. It's like people that will say to me, "Oh, it's either, oh, I feel so guilty I left work early." I said, "Don't you own the business?" Right. Or the reverse is like, I feel so guilty that I missed my kid's thing. And I'm
Mm,
like, how often does that happen? Well, almost never. Right. Like, so there's a great quote that I heard from, I can't think of her name, but she was one of the first women on Wall Street.
hmm.
And she had 2 kids, and gosh, what's her name? I can't think of her name. But anyway, she talked about how neither she loved her job, but she
Hmm.
thought she was being a terrible parent all the time. So she
Hmm.
always was when she was home, she was stressed out about not being at work. And when she was at work, she thought she was a terrible parent. And what she realized when her kids grew up and they could have a better conversation, they said,
Yep.
we just didn't really want to do what you were doing because you just seemed so unhappy. And she said, and she
Oh.
has other iterations in her career
Hmm.
now. And she's like, I realize, and advice I give to other parents is like, be happy where
Hmm.
you're at,
Yeah.
because that's what your kids see.
Right.
Working is part of the human experience,
Hmm.
unless you have some sort of crazy amount of wealth. And even then, it takes work to maintain your wealth, right?
Right.
And so if you're gonna, if you're gonna work, like be good about work, like put it in its place and make sure that you're demonstrating that. That's the best gift you can give your kids.
Right. Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Gina, I'm grateful for you. I appreciate you. Where
Oh, it
can
was so great to connect with you. I can't believe it's taken us. What happened all these? I know. I don't know what happened. Life happens, right?
hey, the fact that I'm really grateful that um you stayed connected, you checked in, and you've always been, whether I took advantage of it or not, that's on me, but you've always been a resource for me, since that fateful plane ride. And I'm grateful for your presence in my life because you were there at literally the very beginning.
It's easy to invest in people who want to invest in themselves and other people. Like
Mhm.
that's always a hell yes for me. So
Yeah,
that wasn't even a tough decision, Michael.
I appreciate you. Where can everybody learn more about what you do in your fractional capacity, or get a hold of your book?
Yep, the book's on Amazon, and you can venturesolutionus.com. That's my website, and I do answer. So if you need to have a question, email me, set up an appointment, whatever. That's great.
I love it. You're the best. I'm grateful for you.
All right, it's great to see you. Thanks again
Yeah,
for having me on. Take
yeah.
care.
For everybody out there listening, if you aspire to be the fittest leader, remember that requires integrity, courage, and ownership. And we're there to support it. Just head over to nextlevelpfc.com and we'll get you set up and rocking and rolling. But it has to start with alignment first. We'll see you next time.